if we manage to have a ceasefire in place for a year, 2 years, for as long as it takes, I don't know, I think beginning 2010, we'll already have the initial anti-rocket system that we are developing, and it's one of our strategic lessons in past years, that Israeli rear is exposed to rockets and all sorts of projectiles, and I think we're building a multi-layer system, anti-rocket system. We'll have initial capabilities by probably mid-2010, and I think the time that we buy such a ceasefire is also important for this one. Now, the fact that Gaza is still controlled by Hamas, of course, is a problem, a political problem for any political process between us and Palestinian Authority. I mean, it's hard to think about a comprehensive deal with the Palestinian Authority when Abu Mazen doesn't control about 40% of his own population. It's also a huge challenge for Abu Mazen itself. If he goes for elections and Hamas does not allow for elections in Gaza, will he go for elections only in the West Bank? I don't know. And if he doesn't, what will happen in the Palestinian Authority? Those are open, valid questions. As far as the political negotiations with the Palestinian Authority are concerned, as I said, our government is now doing its policy review, so I don't know what will be the final outcome. Prime Minister Netanyahu will come with it here when he meets President Obama. Two guidelines I want to make. One is we think that there should be a parallel process of bottom-up and top-down. Bottom-up means that you need to engage in capacity institutional building to lay the foundation for a future Palestinian state. It means emboldening the efforts of General Dayton. He's doing a great job. I know you're going to hear him. We are working with him closely. We're very happy with what he's doing. I think for the first time, those 3 battalions that have already finished their training and deployed in the West Bank are doing a good job. It's not that they can assume full security responsibility in the West Bank, but we are on the right way. And for the first time, I see some sense of professional pride there that we've never seen in these forces. Secondly, bottom-up means also economic efforts, and we are working with Quartet's envoy, Tony Blair, economic projects, infrastructural projects. We had a pilot in Jenin. I think the economic indicators in the West Bank, given the economic crisis, are quite good. I think there was a growth in 2008 of about 4%, and better than Israel and the US, I think. Now, as far as political negotiations are concerned, the top-down process, as I said, I still don't know what will be the outcome of policy review in Israel, but there is a question mark in the minds of many Israelis, given our past experience. Can we really bridge the gap and reach a catch-all agreement between Israel and Palestinian Authority covering all the core issues, refugees, Jerusalem, borders, and so on? There's a lot of skepticism in Israel. Now, some people came up with the idea, it's an idea that's floating in Israel. I know that people here are considering it. Why don't we widen the context instead of focusing on the narrower context of Israeli-Palestinian talks? Why don't we build a regional architecture which allows for separate political tracks between Israel and Palestinians, Syrians, Lebanese, and a multilateral track? And in this way, the Arabs could contribute, unlike 2000 Camp David, in lending political support for the process, economic support, and also by assuming certain CBMs, confidence-building measures vis-à-vis Israel, which could, I think, make it easier for the Israeli public to support certain political concessions. A few words about the northern front, Syria, Lebanon, before I conclude. I think when it comes to Syria, I said that Syrians are maintaining all options. With Syria, all options are open. Things could either escalate or improve. And that is because they are maintaining all options open. That is because at the very same time they say they want peace process and they help Hezbollah, Hamas, and the others. Lebanon, I think, is a sticking point here because when it comes to Hezbollah, as I said, they are deterred, but at the very same time, we know for sure that they are seeking revenge for what they regard as Israeli assassination of arch-terrorist Imad Mounia. They are trying to get some what we call tiebreaker weapon systems from Syria to Lebanon, and if they do so, I think things could escalate and get out of hand. And politically, my concern is that they will win the elections, and if they do so, it's a new ball game. I think it will also impact our attitude towards Lebanon. Many in Israel believe that we should explore a political track with the Syrians. And I think there is a lot of strategic substance to it. If you can drive a wedge between Syria and Iran, I think the Syrian and Iranian interests do not necessarily converge, certainly not in Iraq and elsewhere. There are some opportunities, but there are also some difficulties we should be aware of. First of all, the Syrians want to know, before we start direct talks, what would be the end game in terms of territory, namely that Israel is willing to give back the 67, to get back to the 67 lines. But when we say, look, we have some strategic concerns, we want to know about the end game in terms of your relationship with Iran, with Hezbollah, and so on, all they're saying is that they're willing to discuss it with us. We're not saying anything substantive. But I think, again, a big sticking point is Lebanon. In the past, we used to assume that if we shall have a breakthrough with Syria, Lebanon will follow. Given the political developments in Lebanon, strengthening of Hezbollah politically, I'm not sure that this is the case. It's an open question mark that we should address. To sum up this very optimistic picture, I hope people will not be discouraged. I think there's a lot there's a lot that we could do. The result could be done. I think there are also opportunities in these bleak pictures, and it calls for some cooperative efforts in our region. As I said, many of our neighbors are willing to cooperate on condition that they think they are not left alone and we are moving in the right direction. I want to end by just one story from the Second World War. There was a big problem when German submarines used to sink Allied ships, and they were looking for a solution. So this politician one day said, look, I have a solution. What's the solution? He said, why don't we dry out the ocean? So they said, how do you propose to do that? He said, well, technicalities I leave to the engineers. So I hope that in this case we will come with some practical solution. I think we can. Thank you.